it's Ansel again, and welcome back. Today we've got a bit of a special video. I've been working on this pretty hard for a while now, so I really hope you guys enjoy. But yeah, let's get right to it. Today's video is sponsored by PCBWay, and none of this could have been possible without them. And so I'm gonna go into how I worked with them and where they all fit into this, and how you could probably do everything that I did at home. So let's get right to it. So one day, PCBWay contacted me saying that they will sponsor a video if I use one of their services. Now PCBWay is primarily a PCB manufacturer, but they have a couple other services. The one I was most interested in was CNC milling. And so I was given a budget, and with that budget, I was able to come up with something pretty special. It's special. So I had two inspirations for this project. The first one was Teha Types' raw aluminum key colt. That thing is just beautiful, and it's kind of a dream aesthetic of mine. I just love the look of that. And the other inspiration is Belle Delphine. The reason why I went with Belle Delphine is just because I was inspired to be a degenerate. Well, I am a degenerate, to be honest, but also because I know she has her own keyboard line, and I don't really think it gets any more degenerate as that. I was thinking Bella Porsche, but Bella Porsche isn't exactly degenerate. She's just popular. And also, I mean, I thought I might get some views. I'm shameless like that. I wanted to use those two aesthetics and try to combine them to make something that was both funny, but also something that was kind of classy, you know? And then finally, I decided to choose a DegenNeko as the case for the keyboard because it's open source, so it's available to everybody, and I don't know how to 3D model, so that just made it a lot easier, and I could skip a lot of steps. And I know it works, and I know it works great. So yeah, all three of those elements together came to create something very beautiful and disgusting. I don't know if PCBWay ever wants to sponsor me ever again because of this. I'm sorry, but thank you at the same time. But yeah. So now that I had all the inspirations in place, it was time to get it done. So first step was getting artwork to put on the bottom of the board. And I have a really good friend who is an amazing artist. Please check her out. I'll link her socials in the description down below. But her name is Gyuppy, and she offered to do the art for me. And I had to strike a balance between degenerate and what's allowed on YouTube. So I went with these two designs, and they're just perfect. They're amazing. So I converted those to vector arts. But the thing is, I still don't know how to 3D model. So I had to go outsource some help from Homogeneo's Discord. There was this guy named Josh who offered to help out, and he was awesome. He got the engraving on there just perfectly. He educated me on the process of getting something CNC milled and how that all works. Not too deep, but he gave me a vague understanding of what was going on. So he got me the 3D file all ready to go, ready for the factory to use. And he also got me a technical file. And the technical file is important because it lets the company know that this is to be laser engraved. It has the threading screws for the daughter board on the case. And yeah, I don't really understand much more beyond that, but I needed it. So there you go. If you're gonna do this, get a technical file, I guess. Help me out in the comments below. I don't know what's going on, but thank you, Josh. And once I had these files ready, the whole project was ready to go, and all I had to do was go get a quote from PCBWay and check out how I wanted to do this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how I use PCBWay to print out my case. So first I go to CNC and 3D printing, and you can choose whatever you want here, but CNC machining is primarily what we're gonna use for anything aluminum metal, and it's what I prefer. So I'm gonna go with that. Now here, I have select CAD file. I'm just gonna go ahead and drop the DegenNeko file that I used. This one's just a generic file. It's a step file. As long as you use one of the files that they provide, you're gonna be good. I'm only gonna use one. You can choose however many you want. For design units, I'm going with millimeters because I understand millimeters. I'm going to choose aluminum here, but there are a lot of choices here. But I'm going to prefer aluminum. I know a friend of mine is doing a polycarbonate version of this board, but aluminum is working for me. I chose 6061 because this is the most common one that we use for keyboards. And in here you could even see like the description of it. But then you can choose a finish. The finish that I chose was going to be a sanding. Let me see, detail sanding, and I chose this, but there are a lot of different finishes. And of course, the better the finish or the more expensive the finish, the more you're gonna pay, duh. But yeah, I chose the detail sanding, and it's pretty cheap. That's why I went with it. Now for the technical drawing, I needed this so that they knew that I was going to have the threaded inserts for the screws for the daughter board, and also so that they knew where to engrave, or like how deep the engraving was gonna be. So you can upload it and choose it from your documents. I'm not gonna bother now, but that's how you would do that. And then do you need your parts to have tap threads? Again, this goes back to the technical drawing. You need that if this matters. So I hit yes, and then you would upload the technical drawing here. If you already uploaded it, this won't pop up, but there's that. And then you could choose tighter tolerances. I didn't bother because I'm cheap and I wanted to keep this cheap. Surface roughness, I kept it here. to 250 units per inch. I think that's what that means. It could be micro. I don't know. But I chose this because it's the cheapest one. Then I went with laser engraving for the silk screen for the engraving. Again, this won't pop up if you already uploaded the technical drawing up here. Here you can do an inspection where they're going to do a quality check. And the higher you pay, obviously the better the QC. I went with standard. I didn't really care that much. And this will be the cheapest option again. Applications, I don't know how much this matters. I just chose consumer product, or I don't remember what I picked, to be honest. But yeah, you can do that. And then here you just type in your comments. I didn't do anything, whatever. But yeah, that's it. But yeah, all you have to do now is after you have chosen all of these options, you just hit submit request. It's grayed out right now because I didn't finish everything here. But hit submit request, and then you'll get a subtotal and the quote. And then you can go on from there as to whether or not you want to proceed with getting this case. But yeah, it's super easy to use and it's not that expensive either. I definitely recommend it. So yeah, that's that. Now, honestly, to me, that seems pretty cheap. I don't know what other CNC manufacturers will charge. As far as I'm concerned, this is cheaper than the rest for a one-off. So I'm very happy with that price, and it was free. Of course, though, even though this is free, I'll give my honest thoughts, and I'm not influenced to say anything good about the services as well. I'm just here to describe what they are to you. My thoughts on the service are mine alone, so don't worry about that. But yeah, it seems pretty cheap. Like, I'm pretty happy with it. So yeah, at this point, once I've submitted everything, I think the wait was roughly about 2 weeks. Now, I don't know if that's like fast or slow in the industry, but it's faster than whatever shipping KBD fan says, so it's good to me. But yeah, it was just a waiting game. And so let's rewind back a couple of weeks to when I first unboxed it, and let's see what I thought about it upon unboxing. PCBWay just finally sent me the product that I wanted them to make for me, and it's pretty good. Yeah. Look at it. Look at this thing. It's insane. It's so good. Okay. So there are a couple things that I did that I shouldn't have done, or I should have like specified. For example, this right here should have been a little bit bigger, or like the standoff is wrong. I didn't use the right model of the DegenNeko60, so I have to modify my PCB, but I can manage that much. But overall, the finish is super nice. There's some scratches on here. I think that's me from handling it last night when I opened the package. Thank you, Josh from Hamajineo's Discord again for putting the graphics on here, and thank you, Yuppie, very good friend of mine, for making the artwork here. She just said, yeah, I'll do it for free. Like, okay, fine. But yeah, they've been super awesome about this. So yeah, it was great. So from this point on, now my two objectives were, how can I get this case looking as good as possible? Because I chose not to do a finish, because obviously raw aluminum was just the cheapest option available, and I like that look anyway, so I was kind of expecting that. So what can I do to make this look as good as possible? And I decided to polish it. So first, I tried using polishing compound from Turtle Wax. That didn't work out too well. I think that just has a different use case. So instead, I did some research and found Mother's Mag aluminum. Mother's Mag, the red stuff. I'll put it on the screen right here. But yeah, this stuff is great. It got an incredibly deep sheen and shine, and I don't know what I'm supposed to be using, but it looks freaking amazing. Like, I love how it looks. It's not as good as Tejas, of course, but Tejas is also stainless steel, so maybe that's why. But yeah, no, it looks fantastic after polishing. Now next I had to paint the engraving, so I got some pink enamel paint from Amazon. I don't know, acrylic, whatever. I got some pink paint, and so I tried using this method from JU first, and normally I would recommend that method, especially if the engraving is fairly deep. But I guess I just have a really not good squeegee. And the engraving itself, because it's laser engraved, is really, really shallow. So I went ahead and used a paintbrush and did it by hand instead, which was a pain, and it's not perfect. The results, not too bad. I'm happy with them, and even a month later, it still holds up pretty well. And aesthetically, it's fantastic. I love how it looks. But yeah, moving on now to the build itself, I had to source out the board from Chicken Man, who is also the runner of the CL60, or is the designer of GMK Cluck, which is an absolute masterpiece in my opinion. Go support it. I don't know how, it's not even running, but whatever. Go support it. Big shout out to Chicken Man. Thank you, buddy. Couldn't have done it without you. But this PCB is awesome. It's hot swap. I would have preferred solder, but honestly, hot swap is great as well. And it has a lot of layout support. Not only that, but it's really well labeled on the bottom. And the only problem I had with it is because I used older case files for the DegenNeko. The standoffs were different from what the PCB had, because he used a V3. I think I used a V1. How did I get that? I don't know. I'm just stupid like that. But yeah, the standoffs were different, so I had to file off my own standoff hole in the PCB. Now, if you have to do this to your own PCB, be very, very careful. As you can see, I did it outside the window, and I tried to not breathe in the dust as much as possible. This is fiberglass dust. Everyone is so scared of solder fumes when they're soldering. It's not that big of a deal. Lead doesn't even evaporate at the temperature that we solder at. It's mostly flux, and while that's not good for your lungs either, fiberglass is way worse. The little vent extractor fumes that you see people get is very inefficient for actually filtering out lead. They don't work for that, but they're very good for flux, so that's why you should get them. You're not gonna be breathing in any lead. Don't worry. That's mostly for like factory workers who work in like very high temperature, like laser beam lead on piece or whatever. Look, you're not gonna have to worry about it. Just don't worry about it. But this fiberglass, nasty. Horrible for your lungs, so be very, very careful. I would even recommend wearing a mask if you do this. But yeah, once I did that, the PCB fit perfectly in the case and we were home free. So now we just have to figure out everything else. So I sourced a PC plate from DegenNeko60. It's the KBD fan 60%. And then I went with some banana splits, which are really good switches. Typically, we'll get into that. I typically like JWA switches for the sound and the feel. And I just felt like the color scheme of these switches and the fact that they're just the TikTok switch, I felt like that would go with the theme of the board really well. So I went with that. And then for keycaps, I have a set of CRP, Japanese black pink. Freaking amazing. Probably my favorite key set of all time. Just beautiful, super classy, super subdued looks. I use a GMK Moto Light spacebar and enter key just to give it an accent, and just because the CRP G-Pink 7U spacebar was horrible. I tried to fix it, but the warping was so bad and it wouldn't stay. And it comes with a usable ABS spacebar, but it just doesn't sound as good as GMK spacebars in my opinion. That is personal preference, of course, but I prefer the GMK one better, so I went with that, and boom. There we go. After slapping on a 50A O-ring, we were good to go. Now, let's take a listen to this and see how it came out. Now, if you ask me, that sounds pretty dang good. However, I do have some issues. So the banana splits that I bought, I guess came from a bad batch. They didn't feel particularly smooth. They had a little bit of binding, and there's a lot of leaf noise. I have no clue why. Maybe it's the films, I don't know, but I ended up trading the banana splits for some Xylants. And I put in some Techno violets instead, which I prefer by a mile. And I also put in some polyfill in here because there's quite a bit of pinginess in here just stock, and that's a known issue with the DegenNeko60. Only thing is, it raises the PCB a bit, so there's a little more flex, but it's not unstable, so I'm perfectly fine with that. And so here is how the rebuild sounds. And yeah, I prefer how that sounds by a mile. It sounds much fuller and a bit deeper. I think my only issue is that the corner mods kind of like lift a little bit. It's super janky. I hate it, but whatever. It's just because it's hot swap. If I soldered it, that'd be not an issue, but yeah, it's fine. But yeah, that is the board. Shout out again to PCBWay for sponsoring this video. Shout out to Guppy for the art. Really, really appreciate you. Shout out to Josh for helping me get this 3D file ready. And then shout out to Chicken Man for helping me with the PCB. And shout out to all my friends that were supporting me through this, because God, I was so lost. I didn't know what to do at all. And I had a lot of people helping me. So shout out to all you guys. But yeah, that's the video. Thank you for coming with me on this journey. Really appreciate you. Hope to see you next time. I hope you have a good day, and peace.